Good morning, class. Today, we're going to learn about the differences between formal and informal English. To those of you who saw my tweet about class starting today, correct, I was using some formal language. However, the most important thing to remember about formal language is that it isn't always quite so complicated. I'm sure that many of you may find formal English to be quite intimidating or scary, perhaps. But there's no reason to be afraid of it. Formal language has its equivalents. I'm using some formal language right now, aren't I? There's a formal word for every informal word and vice versa. If you study with me today, you're going to be learning all kinds of great formal words to use in all sorts of different situations, as well as some brand new informal slang that might help you in more casual situations as well. So, to start off with, what I would like to do is to run you through a little bit of an exercise. What I have in mind for right now is that what we should do is try to write a letter. In doing so, what we're going to do is write a letter in an informal context and then in a formal context. The challenge is to try and write a letter that has the exact same meaning in each of those two contexts. It's only changed by the language itself. So, which would you like to start with? Shall we go for formal first and then translate it down to informal? I think that might be a lot more interesting. So, the way I would like to do this is I'm going to start writing a letter, but occasionally I will stop and I'm going to give you all a choice between one of two words to use. You need to let me know which of the two words is formal or informal, and therefore which one we should use for the letter. Formal first? Very good. All right. Here's the idea I had, okay? Let's say that we are people of business. This is a work letter or a work email. There are all kinds of different ways to open formal correspondence, which is a formal way of talking about an important letter. Correspondence being dialogue or talking back and forth. One of the main ways that we sort of open a letter would be to say, "Dear Sir or Madam," if you aren't sure who you're talking to, or in a very serious context, you might say, "To whom it may concern," which comes off as quite serious. But there's no need to use that in very many contexts. If you're doing something seriously, the best way to open it is simply with "Dear" and the person's name. For the sake of brevity, I'll be writing this letter to Dear... Should I write it to someone we know? Or should we just make someone up? Dear Mr. Businessman. Dear Mr. Businessman. So, the situation at hand is that there has been a problem. We have routinely been late for work. So what are we going to do about it? Well, let's begin by making a formal apology. How do you apologize formally? Essentially, it's all about being clear, straightforward, and leaving nothing up to the other person's interpretation. Interpretation being their way of understanding it. So, let's begin. I am writing to you today to apologize for my lateness as of the last few weeks. absence. Very good. Absence. Now, there's an important difference there. Lateness would of course mean that you are late but you do arrive, whereas absence means you never show up at all. Absence tends to be a lot more serious than simple lateness. At least in the United Kingdom where I'm from, we tend not to say tardiness too much, but there's nothing wrong with using the word tardiness. So I'll write that one down as well for my lateness or tardiness as of the last few weeks. Very good. Now, what is the reason for it? That's important to break down as well. Those... Which word should we use? Guilty of or responsible for? Which one do you think sounds a little more formal? Responsible for? Very good. I think so too. Those responsible for our scheduling mishaps have been... Now, which word is correct here? Let me know. Have been informed, made aware, or told. Which of these three do you think would work best here? There's not always just one right answer. Now, informed, yes, informed is the most formal, but made aware would also be okay. Made aware means quite literally to make someone aware of someone, to let them know. But informed is the best. Have been informed and will strive to improve and will strive to improve. Oh, will strive to improve works fine. You see, there's often a bit of confusion around formal English. There tends to be this thought that using long words might make something more formal, but this isn't always the case. You see, if you are too flowery, let's say, with your words, you might bog down your letter with too much, and it might become a little confusing. For example, if I really wanted to drag this out, and if I really wanted to use the most words possible to describe it, I might say, I have taken pen to paper this afternoon in order to write and to inform you that I apologize profusely for my tardiness and lack of consideration for yours and my business interests. I have taken great pain to establish a thread of those responsible for any discrepancies in my schedule that may have led to these terrible issues, and promptly made them quite aware of how unacceptable these problems are. I must ask for your forgiveness at this time. You see, both of these mean very much the same thing. However, the second paragraph is not only way too long, it's also kind of weird. It's also really, it feels like the term for whipping oneself in punishment is flagellation. It seems like you're flagellating in order to make them feel bad for you. And it isn't very professional. And in a sense, you've overly formaled your way past being formal. It is becoming informal in a very ugly way. So there's no need to do that much and to go that far. Just be, the word is concise. Concise. I spelled it wrong. Concise, meaning to be quick and brief. Can I say slowly? I'm doing my best to say slowly, but I'll try to be a little slower for you. No worries. So, that's how we've begun this, and we can keep moving forward and try to write a little more on this email. So now that it's important if something's gone wrong in a formal situation to apologize in a normal and concise way. But then action needs to be taken. So, let's try proposing some sort of plan in a formal way. And here we're going to use a lot of formal words that might be a little confusing. However, as a result, I have been made aware that Mr. Businessman II has postponed next week's meeting. Postponed means to put off or to cancel. So in the context of this sentence, Mr. Businessman II is essentially taking a formal appointment and is moving it until later on because they're quite disappointed with what's happened. A reschedule would usually be something that has a clear end date, whereas if you postpone something, you're putting it off until anywhere later on. As I'm sure you're aware, this adds a little bit of quite pointed emphasis, or what is a simple way of saying emphasis? It makes it sound a bit more important. As I'm sure you're aware, this could prove catastrophic for our margins this fiscal year. So what about this? Yes, postponed would be the right word for here. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So how about this? What is catastrophic? I'll tell you. Catastrophic generally just means disastrous. Rather, it is a disaster, or it's just really bad. So which one is the best word to use here? Catastrophic, disastrous, or really bad? Margins. Well, margins just means profit. Profit margins. It's not particularly important, and I doubt you'll be disastrous. Both disastrous and catastrophic are both fine. Catastrophic is a bit much. I think you might be right. Let's go with disastrous. Very good. Very, very good. How about this? I propose that, or I think we should. Which one of these? To propose something means to say, I think we should do or get or try something. If you propose something, you're suggesting it. Propose, very good. Propose is a very proper formal word to use. Very nice. And now we're going to go into a load of formal words. I think what I'll do here is write out a whole load of them and walk you through the definition bit by bit. Okay? So let's try this. I propose that in response, we integrate a new strategy to facilitate better punctuality throughout our company. That's quite a mouthful. That's what we would say in the UK. It's a bit of a mouthful. So let's walk you through a definition of all of these. In response, not so complicated. It just means a reply, one thing for something else. If I was to say hello, your response might be to say hello. We integrate. Integrate means to apply something. It means to put something to work. It means to start something up or add something to something else or into something else. For example, if I could say that when I make a cup of tea, if I want to add milk, I am integrating milk into the tea. In a business setting, integrate would mean any kind of new strategy or system that helps keep things afloat or improve business efficiency. I'm using a lot of big words, aren't I? Efficiency, of course, meaning how well things work. It's difficult for me to try and teach informal words or formal words because I tend to use a lot of formal English every day. So well done to all of you who are keeping up and learning a lot. It brings me a lot of joy to know that you're still managing to learn. A new strategy. Strategy, you may know, it's named after, or a genre of game is named after this word. It means a idea or plan of action. If you have an idea for how to do something, that would be your strategy for how to do it. So really, an informal word for strategy might just be plan or idea. Facilitate. Facilitate can simply enough mean to help or to assist. If I teach you English, I am facilitating your progress as an English speaker. By giving you lessons, those lessons facilitate your growth as an English speaker. Venus, thank you very much for the super. I am ESL and I always use I am instead of I'm in formal writing. Is this necessary? I would say that it does depend, but usually I am as opposed to I'm is a great example of formal versus informal. So let's break that down just quickly. because I think it's a really good example. I am and I'm, of course, mean the exact same thing. I'm is what we call an abbreviation. Let me write that down. Abbreviation. An abbreviation means to make something, means to give something brevity. Abbreviation. A brevity. Brevity. Or rather, to make it brief, which means short. So, instead of saying 2 syllables, I am, you can just say I'm. A contraction? This may be a regional difference. From what I have learned, it's always been an abbreviation. To abbreviate means to make something shorter. I don't think we really use the term contraction in the UK, but maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I was at school. But yes, if you wanted to be formal and polite, you should say I am, but around friends, or certainly around me, it's perfectly fine to say I'm. That was a great question. That was very, very helpful to go into. You know, I'm gonna have to look that up, because I've really not really heard the word contraction used much. Contraction versus abbreviation. I might be learning something myself here, you know. Well, that's fascinating to me. A lot of you might be right. It might be a contraction. I have never really used this word, and I always call it an abbreviation, but they both certainly apply. Mostly in the US. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Either way, both work and both are correct. So don't worry too much, okay? All right, let's get back on with our silly email. So we were at facilitate, which means to help. I've been facilitating your learning. Punctuality simply means being on time. If you're punctual, then you are on time and you are ready for something at the right time, and generally you keep time quite well. If you are unpunctual, that means that you're late, or that you generally are often late for things. Another word for punctuality might be timely, or simply to say on time. The most informal version would simply be to say that you are on time, or maybe that you're always on time. Right? But in an email like this, punctuality would work fine. Throughout. Throughout just means all of something. So if you were to say, I drink water throughout the day, that means that you've been drinking water regularly during the day. As the day goes on, you keep drinking water, so throughout the day, you have been drinking regularly. In a company, if you were to make changes that affect the whole company, those changes would happen throughout the company. And we all know what company means. Corporation, business, whatever. Any questions about those words at all? I watch Vox Akuma streams throughout the week. That is correct. Very good. Can you explain again? Of course. Throughout just means through all of something. There is blood all throughout my body. There is air throughout the room. There is a horrible smell throughout the field, for example. Let it brew. You know, it's interesting getting used to the experience of teaching English in this format, because it's less like a class and more like I'm giving a presentation. While I'm, I can see the chat, but I can't hear anyone's voice, and it makes me want to fill the dead air and keep moving forward. What's the difference between throughout and until? Well, until means waiting for something that is at the end of something. So, for example, if you were to do something throughout a certain event, you would describe the event itself. For example, let me write an example for you. I drank water throughout the day. However, until is used for the end of that event. For example, I drank water until nighttime. So they can be used in very similar sentences, but they just refer to slightly different things. Until is something, so let's say till being sort of, till then, till nighttime, till tomorrow, until next time, for example. I'll be watching a Vox stream until 12 a.m. Very good. Hopefully that answers your question. No worries, no worries. Can I ask why we use past tense here? Well, you can use tenses wherever it is appropriate. If you wanted to use any tense, let's take I drank water throughout the day, which is past tense. Then the following, present tense. I drink water throughout the day, referring to any day around now. Or you could potentially say, I have been drinking water throughout the day, which refers to the past, but it implies that you still are. So it is both past and present in a way. Then future tense, I will drink water throughout the day. So let's break down tenses a little bit. Tenses are your weakness. That's interesting. Okay, because I think tenses are just fine to understand. I can definitely see what I can do to teach you a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a tangent to talk about tenses. But first of all, we've had a super from Say. A happy birthday. I hope you're having a wonderful day and you'd like a little kiss from Teach for your birthday. Well, who am I to say no? I'm happy today, happy every day, and I hope you are too. Love you too. Hope you have a wonderful birthday. All right, let's talk about tenses, shall we? Little tangent to talk about tenses. Tenses just change the way you write single words. And they sometimes change the way you lay out a sentence just a little bit, right? So, for example, let's write a sentence and then let's convert it into all the different tenses, okay? So, past. I loved my kindred. Aww. The main thing from past tense is this, the ed at the end of a verb. If you love something in the past, you loved it. If you want something in the past but don't anymore. You wanted it. So some examples, wanted. Oop, hang on. Wanted. How about thanked? You thanked someone for their oh, it's a bit too far up. My mistake. I loved my kindred. Wanted, thanked. The ed is very important. There are some differences. For example, a few really annoying little words that you can learn if with a little bit of time. For example, the most annoying of them being thought. Thought is a very nasty word, right? Thought means the past tense of think, but it's also a noun describing a idea or thought you have had. So this can get very confusing. Let's say, for example, why don't we change the sentence so we can do both, right? I thought I loved apple juice. Just for example, I thought I loved apple juice. In the present tense, it would be I think I love apple juice. When in doubt, the present tense uses the normal version of the word. Love is where you would start with it, and then for the past you would add the ed onto the end, and then for the future you would add something else. For example, I think I will, or perhaps, I think I will love apple juice. Okay? I will. Will is the best tool you have to use the future tense. This will happen, or this is going to happen. I will. They will. It will. All you have to do is add will beforehand, and in most situations, that makes it future tense. Not always, and I'm not an expert on all the different ways that you could use tenses, but this I think is a good general rule. Okay? Loved, love, and will love. Those are the key points. Loved, love, will love. You see? Yes, they do get a little bit confusing, but I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying to teach you. I drank apple juice. I drink apple juice. I will drink apple juice. Correct. Very good. That's exactly right. Very much correct. Good job. Or I think I will always love apple juice would imply that you love apple juice right now and you will always love it in the future as well. So if anyone has any questions about how we might convert a sentence into the past, present, or future tense, feel free to ask and we can take it through at your own pace. Okay? What's the difference between will and going to? There's not much of a difference, really. Will is just shorter. For example, let me try and think. So this is all future tense, right? I will fight in a war. I will fight in a war. Versus I am going to fight in a war. Both of these things do quite literally mean exactly the same thing. However, I will fight in a war, it tends to be a little bit more vague, right? It's slightly less formal because it could refer to any time. I will could mean one day I will fight in a war. And then another, I'm going to, might mean I am going right now to fight in a war. Understand? Going to. Going to feels like it has a bit more action to it. It's sort of, I'm going to do this right now. Whereas I will tends to mean more of a vague idea. So going to is a bit more formal, but they both are perfectly usable in multiple contexts. So there's no real need to worry. Whichever one feels right to you is probably going to be okay. See? Is probably going to be okay? Probably will be okay? Both of those are fine. Both of those make perfect sense. Well, yes, will comes from the word willing. So will means want to do, right? If you have the will, it's more of a noun, really. The will to fight. If you have the will to fight on, then that's your desire. It's something that you want. And if you are willing, it means that you're ready to do something. If you're willing, then that means I am willing to fight a war. I'm willing to do this. Willing can mean all right, if you say so. Sure, I'll do it. Or it could mean I'm really willing as a verb. I have been willing to get to do this thing. And therefore, if you say I will do this, you're essentially saying that you will to do something, but it's become shorter over time. Always willing to watch your streams? Very good. Very good. That's a good word. That's a good word. Although volition tends to be more about personal choice. So volition is all about choices. So if, for example, what we would say with that word is he did this of his own volition. Your volition is something that you have chosen to do, right? So that's essentially the difference. Volition is a very nice word, very formal, not always necessary. So don't worry about grabbing that one. All right. Let's get back to our funny little email, shall we? I'm going to give you some more words. I'll remind you what we wrote. As I'm sure you're aware, this could prove disastrous for our margins this fiscal year. I propose that, in response, we integrate a new strategy to facilitate better punctuality throughout our company by establishing a series of checkpoints throughout an employee's day, in addition to their usual morning clock in. We will ask that all employees disclose their attendance and current task as and when they are asked. So now we've got more formal, nasty words to break down. Let's get to it. Establishing. Establish. What does establish mean? To establish means to set out or to make clear. If I establish that I am the teacher, it means I'm showing you that I am the teacher. Establishing also means to start something. In this context, we are starting a new system. We are setting up a new system. Yes, set up or to set is exactly what we're looking for with the word establish. To set up. You can establish both in the world or in your language. If I'm establishing in language, that's just something I'm proving or setting up to you. But you can set things up and establish them in the real world as well. What you might notice on the front of certain shops, you might have, let's say there's the name of a shop that says something like coffee shop Est 1883, for example. Est in here is an abbreviation for establish, meaning the coffee shop was established in 1883. It was set up or begun in 1883. Right? Establishing, right? There you go. Well, that's something a lot of you didn't know. So, by establishing this new system, we are setting it up within the business. And yes, establishment is something that has been established. That's the past tense, established. So, establishment, something that has been set up, usually a building. So, a building or venue is a better word. So if you were in a bar or a pub or a restaurant, referring to it as an establishment is completely correct. It's formal and we don't usually say it, but it is correct. Next, series. Not quite as complicated, but worth going into. Series just means an amount of things. It's a sequence of things. So let's say it's a plural of anything in sequence, which is a bit complicated. So let me break it down. A series is what, actually in the UK, when we talk about TV, we don't say season, we say series. In America or elsewhere in the world, you might say, oh yeah, I'm so excited for season 2 of this TV show. In the UK on Channel 4 or the BBC, we would say, I'm so excited for series 2 or series 3. And a series of something is, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a series of numbers because they are a plural, more than one number that are one after the other. You would view a series of them. So, if there is a series of checkpoints, there might be one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. Yes, these English teaching streams have been a series. There was the first one about British slang, and the second one about British food, the third one about dating, and so that has been a series viewed one after the other. A chain is also correct. A chain, if we're talking about a physical chain, then yes, it is a series of chain links, right? Very good. Checkpoints. Well, I think that this is fairly self-explanatory. We all play video games, I'm sure. Checkpoints refers to a point where you are checked. A point where you are checked. So, in a video game, your progress is checked and saved at this point, but in, let's say, a border between two countries, it's a point where you would be stopped and checked. On this situation, the business would stop and check the employees to make sure they're being productive. Does that make sense? Very good. So we've already been throughout. Employee, very simple. It's just someone who is employed. If you are an employee, you are employed or work for, hired by a business, and the owner of that business, the person that employed you, is your employer. Employee, employer. In addition to sounds scary, but very simple. Just means as well as. So, coffee in addition to cream is very tasty, right? Really, it's less as well as and more in addition to. How do I describe this? To add something. It's something added to something else. Coffee in addition to cream is very tasty. Added on, yes. As well as sort of two things side by side. For example, you might say, my bills in addition to my taxes have made me bankrupt, for example, right? Additionally, very good. Additionally is a great connective or sentence starter. So you could describe one thing and say, I am struggling to pay my bills. Additionally, I am struggling to pay my taxes. For example, right? Please feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast or if you have more questions, okay? Bill is invoice. Kind of. Yes, a bill is an invoice, but bills usually refers to something like your electricity, your utilities, gas, your gas bill, your internet bill, your electricity bill, your water bill, and so on. Can we get additionally instead of also? Yes. Well, that's a really good example of a formal versus informal word. Formal would be additionally, and then informal would be also. So if you were talking with your friend, you might say, also, this happened. But if you were talking in a business, you would say, additionally, we may need to consider this. Yes. Additionally is very rarely used in a informal setting. Also is the much easier word to use. The usual morning clock-in, we will ask that all employees disclose. Disclose is a great word. It just means to tell. If I was to say, I disclosed my identity to you, I told you who I was. I told you my identity. I told you who I was. Right? Yes. Well, revealed is more vague. Disclosed is very intentional, right? So to disclose something means that you have decided that I'm telling you this, I'm disclosing this information to you, or it was disclosed to me. If something is revealed, it can be revealed in much broader contexts. If, for example, someone was having an affair, it might be revealed to you when you find a piece of evidence, right? But the evidence, you wouldn't really say that the evidence discloses the affair to you. If someone confessed to the affair, then they would be disclosing it to you, right? Yes, inform. Inform is also, it works as well. So disclose can also mean inform, which means tell. So disclose and inform are both formal, and then tell is informal. Like an outfit reveal, exactly. If I reveal an outfit, I'm not disclosing the outfit to you, because that would mean I'm just sort of telling you about it. Disclose tends to be more, it's more about telling people things, okay? Ask that all employees disclose their attendance. Do we all know what this means? That means attendance, how much you attend something. Or really it's more attendance is showing up. If you have good attendance, it means you've shown up for something a lot. In school, you will have an attendance score. If you go to school every day, you will have 100% attendance. I always get confused about when to use can and could. Could is more polite, but my cram school teacher says it feels more distant. That is very confusing, but I'll try to help you, okay? So can usually means, let's say, I can do it. Can is very sure. It's certain. It's absolute. If you say, I can do it, then you're certain, you're absolute. I can do this. You know for a fact that you can do something. Whereas could means I can maybe do it. Could is a lot more uncertain. If you're saying you could do it, then you are either saying that you want to do it but don't know if you can for sure, or you can do it but you don't know if you want to. Yes, it's like 80% sure. That's quite fitting. You're almost there. You're almost there. And you're saying, well, I could. If someone says, can you help me with my garden? And you say, I can do that. That basically means, yes, I would be happy to help. Whereas I could is more like, well, yeah, I could, but I don't really want to. And sometimes could can be a little bit more distant, right, in that sort of a context. Now, there's another context for both of these, is if you're asking people, right? So, for example, if you're asking someone, can you do this? Can you do something for me? Or could you do something for me? These two are pretty much the exact same. There's not a lot that really separates these two, but I think that could you do something for me is a little bit more correct. Can you do something for me, I think, is a bit more forceful. Can you do this? Can you do that? In some cases, you might be asking, do they have the ability? For example, can you lift these weights? Or could you lift these weights? It's strange because could you lift these weights sounds a bit nicer, whereas can you lift these weights sounds more like a challenge. Can you lift these weights? Hey mate, can you lift those weights? It's a bit more of a challenge, whereas could you lift those weights is more like you're genuinely asking. So again, it is a bit of a confusing difference, but to reassure you, I don't think that you're going to run into much issue if you get these words mixed up sometimes. The more native you become, the more time you spend speaking English, the more aware you're going to become of how to use these words right. And no one is going to be offended by the difference between can and could. So do your best, and eventually the right sentences and the right situations to use each word will start to become more clear. You have the room to learn, I promise. There is no accidentally causing offense with either of these. What does lift weights mean? Like working out, right? So let's say, for example, lift these weights like dumbbells where you're at the gym. Can you lift, maybe that's a UK thing. We say weights when referring to dumbbells or a barbell or something that you might use to work out and get your reps in, for example. Okay. And current task. Current means right now, in a sense. So you could say currently, which means, again, which means right now. So currently, we are having a lesson. Currently, we are having a lesson. Currently, I am teaching you, for example. Current can also mean timely in a different way. So, for example, if you're talking about the news, okay, current news is news that is happening right now. So, current news is quite worrying, you might say. Google is telling me, the current news is quite worrying. The news happening right now. Can the word current be like this? No. So what you might say is, well, it's sort of, not really though. So for example, if you were to say, this news is quite worrying, let's break that down, okay? The current news is quite worrying. That's more like if you're chatting with someone and you bring up the news. You say, the current news is quite worrying. You're talking about what's on TV, talking about global politics and so on. Whereas this news is quite worrying. You would say that when someone tells you something. For example, it's very formal and not really very natural. But if someone was to say, I feel very sick, it would be correct to say this news is quite worrying, but normally the polite thing to say is, are you all right? Do you need anything? But I hope hopefully that explains a little bit better. Recently, that's good. So let's break that down a little bit. Currently, right now. Recently means not long ago. So recently is, it is in the past, but not by much. So if, let's say I'm talking about this week, I did a RuneScape stream. I would say recently I streamed RuneScape. Recently I did a live stream, right? Barry, thank you very much for the super. Glad to help you practice. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. More than happy to help. Would it be incorrect to say, as of now, we currently? It's not incorrect, but you don't need to say that. Currently sums the whole thing up. So let's say, as of now. As of now refers to, okay, everyone, here's things as they are right now. As of now, we have no money. As of now, the war has begun. Whereas, currently also means very much right now. So if you just say, as of now, we currently have, it does make sense, but you don't need to say both. In present times is very philosophical. It's quite vague. So as of now means describing the situation right now. Currently also just means right now in a more vague sense. In present times, describing the moment more vaguely. So in present times, you could be referring to the last 10 years. To many people, that is present. Oh, in present times could be just the state of the world as of this past year, 5 years, 10 years. In present times, people have acted this way. In present times, people use lots of social media. Currently, people use lots of social media is also correct. And as of now, people use lots of social media. But of course, people have been using social media for a long time. Muzukashi sumimasen. Don't worry, you're doing well. The thing to remember about English, and once we get to the informal section, you'll start to understand, there are lots and lots of different ways of saying the same thing. All of these things kind of mean the same thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this little email, and then I'll show you just how much simpler it can be if you try to use informal language, which usually isn't rude. Okay? So, I have a few more fun words to learn. So, in exchange, we may permit employees to seek higher bonuses. Those that utilize the system well will improve our reputation as well as illustrate comprehensive growth within our sector. I look forward. I will do the end of the letter afterwards. So let's break these words down. In exchange means to trade. So if I would exchange £5 for a beer, or if you do something in return, right? If let's say in exchange, if I say, oh, in exchange for helping me with, in exchange for coming to the lesson, you will learn some English. That in exchange for your time, you will learn something. In exchange for my time, I get to see all of you. And I get a little better at English myself, right? So in exchange for cooperating, working with, helping this new system, they may enjoy higher bonuses, right? Exchange means to trade, basically. One thing for another. Anyone here seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood? What's the Japanese name for Full Metal Alchemist? Hagane no Renkin Jutsushi. Anyone seen this? Well, equivalent exchange, right? Alchemy, same thing. Hagane no Renkin Jutsushi. So, if you were to exchange whatever it is, they put it on the circle to transform Alphonse into some, put Alphonse's soul in the armor or whatever it is. That's an exchange. One thing for another. In exchange for your time, in exchange for your help, you might get a higher bonus. Permit means to allow. So if I permit, I will permit you. I will permit you. I will permit a kiss. If you permit something, it means you let it happen. You are saying, okay, that's fine. In the same way that having a permit is a document that allows you to do something. Permit, allow. I suppose I can permit you to have one kiss, okay? I suppose I can permit a small bit of mischief today. I suppose I can allow you to have some sweets. Permit is very formal. Allow is also a little formal, but you could use that in an informal context. For example, allow it is a piece of slang, which means let it happen. If you're doing something and someone starts criticizing you, you can say, allow it. Allow it. Oh, go on, allow it. Let. That's another good one. That's even better. Let. If you let something happen, then you have allowed it to happen. Then you have permitted it. A permit is a noun. Permit, allow, verb? Correct. Permission. You got it. Very good. Permit, allow, let, give permission. To give permission means to permit, means to allow, means to let. All the way down, okay? Permission means consent to do something. If I give you permission to kiss me, then you are allowed to do so. Permit is more active and allow is more passive. Potentially. To permit someone to do something, you might say, I think that's true, but the difference is narrow. Permit would be much more formal to say, okay, now that you have your fishing permit, your fishing license, you're allowed to go fishing in this lake. Whereas to allow something, sometimes allowing something can happen through inaction. If you are too lazy to enforce the law, you are allowing people to break the law, in a way, right? Permit employees to seek higher bonuses. Those that utilize, make use of, or simply to use. So if I utilize my electric toothbrush Then I make sure I get the most out of it because I use it every day, twice a day, in fact. To utilize means to make good use of something. Really, it is make good use. So if you fully, people often say, to fully utilize something. Fully utilize. Get the most out of something. So, in this context, they're saying we have this new system that employees can use for more bonuses. If they utilize it well, then they will get more chance of having those bonuses. Fully utilize your skills. That's very good. If I fully utilized my skill as a teacher to help you learn, you fully utilized your skill as a student to learn new words, right? Also, a couple differences that aren't very important but fun to keep in mind. I am from the United Kingdom, from England. In England, we spell utilize. We usually don't use the letter Z very often, and I'm actually using the American spelling here, right? Utilize. This is the British spelling, whereas the American spelling is with the Z, like so. Now, this is not very important. You won't get into trouble for ever mixing these up, especially considering if you're not from America or from England, you have no responsibility to learn either. You're welcome to use either one. Just be aware that if you're using Google Docs, it might tell you that one is wrong and one is right. Okay? But don't worry. It's just interesting. A few other differences might be, in England, we spell it armour with a U, whereas in America, it's just armour with an O. Okay? Ah, yes. In England, we spell it maneuver with an O. But in America, it is spelled maneuver. It might even be maneuver like this. I think this is correct. Yeah. So it's a bit much. Ah, yes. In England, we say color with a U, and then in America, it is color with an O. Again, these are unimportant for your journey, but they're interesting nonetheless. Which means nonetheless, meaning anyway. Nonetheless, meaning even with, even still. Nonetheless, as in, despite what I've said, this is good nonetheless. Nonetheless, it is no less, right? It is a little confusing. I know. But the core of what you're picking up is very good. So, how do we end this letter? I look forward to hearing from you soon. And now, ending off a letter. There are lots of ways to do this, but the most polite and formal is to say warm best. Or you could potentially say warm regards. These are polite, and they're nice, and they are perfectly acceptable for someone that you don't know or that you only know through work. So, best, warm best, best regards, or just regards, best regards, warm regards. Those are all perfectly formal, and they're more than okay to use in formal contexts. In informal contexts, so let's just quickly write this down. Formal, these, and then really, let's say business-like, formal, appropriate, whereas more personal, if you were writing a letter to someone you loved or someone you knew as a friend, you might say yours sincerely, yours faithfully, best wishes, with love, or, yes, yours. Just yours. Very romantic, in my mind. Very romantic. Personal, friendly, romantic. I think that's good at describing these. Yes. And then you sign it off. Vox Akuma, or whatever your name is. Kindred. Okay. That's our very long, wordy way of saying, sorry I was late. Let's make a plan. Dear Mr. Businessman, I am writing to you today to apologize for my lateness or tardiness. Let's cramp that down. That was the one we didn't get rid of. I'm writing to you today to apologize for my lateness as of the last few weeks. Those responsible for our scheduling mishaps have been informed and will strive to improve. However, as a result, I have been made aware that Mr. Businessman II has postponed next week's meeting. As I'm sure you are aware, this could prove disastrous for our margins this fiscal year. I propose that, in response, we integrate a new strategy to facilitate better punctuality throughout our company. By establishing a series of checkpoints throughout an employee's day, in addition to their usual morning clock-in, we will ask that all employees disclose their attendance and current task as and when they are asked. In exchange, we may permit employees to seek higher bonuses. Those that utilize the system well will improve our reputation as well as illustrate comprehensive growth within our sector. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Also, there were a couple of words we didn't look at. Hang on a minute. We're almost there, I promise. We're almost there. But some of these are great, and I would love to teach them to you as soon as I get a little bit more water out. My mouth is getting quite dry. By the way, a lot of this is very complicated stuff, and you're doing very, very well. I'm very pleased with how well you're all paying attention. Well done, okay? So, let's look at some more of these words. Reputation. Reputation is a very simple word. Reputation means how people think of you. If you have a good reputation, you are liked. If you have a bad reputation, you are not liked. Simple as that. Everyone has reputation in a certain way. It could be, you could use it in the context of fame, but people who are not famous do have a reputation of their own. Reputable is a good word. Reputable means something that has a good reputation. So you could say, oh, this legal firm is very reputable. Or I consulted with a reputable source. A lot of the time you might see journalists, news say, we hear from a reputable source, right? So, reputation is what people think of you. Locally, you might have a bit of a reputation. They say, oh, he has a reputation for being a bit of a loud drunk. Or, oh, she has a reputation for being very nice to people, for example. Okay. Could I make a playlist? I should. I should make a playlist, yeah. So that's reputation. Favorability. Favorability will be used differently in a sentence, but it's similar. So if you are favorable, that means that you are liked. So if you have favor, then they like you, basically. Unfavorable means you are not liked. Favor means if favor is sort of, it's almost like a currency, you know? Favor is given to someone who is liked. If you like me, I have your favor. You have given me your favor, right? It's almost as though you treat your opinion like a currency, and your favor is given to those that you like, and they benefit from your favor, basically. Yes, you could, and if you earn a favor, for example, a favor could be something you are owed. So, for example, if, let's say, I do something nice for you, you give me your favor. You favor me for having done this. And then I could say, you owe me a favor, which is a task. Can you do a favor for me? Which is a task done for nothing in return, right? There's a lot of definitions for this word, but in general, favor is something that means how much a person likes you, and you can redeem a favor like currency for people helping you. How is coyote read in a British accent? Coyote. All right. It's quite a can of worms, that term, really, isn't it? Can of worms. A topic or subject that is difficult to stop talking about once you have started. A lot of the time this is, let's say you're at dinner and someone brings up politics, right? It can be, we say, oh, don't open that can of worms, because once you've opened it, once the conversation has begun, suddenly it's difficult to put the worms back in the can. It's difficult to stop talking about it, right? How do we know which words are spelled with OU and which are just O? Usually this is all regional. Usually this is just England versus America, and the differences are not terribly important. If you're spelling on a computer, set the language to either American English or British English and it will correct you. So don't worry too much. Just do your best, okay? All right. Illustrate. Illustrate can have some, so literally, illustrate means to draw. But illustrate can also mean to show. If I illustrate a character, I have drawn a picture of the character. But if I illustrate my skill as a teacher, I am showing you that I am a good teacher. I am illustrating my skill, illustrating my value. If you could also say demonstrate. Demonstrate is similar as well. but in general it means, let's say it can also mean to paint a picture metaphorically. For example, they have illustrated a high level of skill. They have shown that they have skill. They have given us a picture, really. Just by doing something, they have illustrated a picture of their potential, of their possibility, right? They're not the same, but they can be used in the same way. Demonstrate is more literal, whereas illustrate is more vague and personal. So demonstrate, for example, could be, I'm going to demonstrate how to use these words. Or I'm going to demonstrate the proper technique for watching a stream. I'm going to demonstrate how to follow the rules. So demonstrate means to show literally. A demonstration could be a tutorial, right? Whereas an illustration is more to give people an idea in more of a vague way. Depict means to show something in your own way, really. I'm going to make sure that that's right, but I'm pretty sure it is. Define depict, just to make sure. Through a visual medium, that's quite right. So let's say that you wanted to depict me. It's your version of something. So to depict something means to show it in your own way. If you were to draw fan art of me, you are depicting me. It is your depiction of me. If I was to do an impression of... If to do an impression of Yoda I was, my depiction of him, this would be... That's kind of a terrible character to use for an English lesson, given how he talks. So I apologize for that. If I was to do an impersonation of Barack Obama, this is, in a sense, my depiction of Barack Obama. I'm depicting Barack Obama. Now let me be clear. This can be used in a lot of different contexts. So you got to make sure that you got to learn all the different ways we can use this. Okay, so that's the difference. To create your own, to create your, to show something in your own way, usually artistically. Making an audiobook, yeah, I'd give it a try. I love this back and forth we've had today. Usually when I do these lessons, it's more of me talking at you, but today we've had a lot of back and forth with questions. So I've really enjoyed that, and I look forward to doing more of this in future lessons. Okay, we're almost there. Comprehensive. Comprehensive means thorough and all-encompassing. It means thorough, detailed, absolute. Yes. So let's say I was to show you how to do something. If I gave you a comprehensive guide, a guide that has every little detail. Comprehensive means that it's very good and big and vast and has all of what you would need. Holistic is an excellent word. Holistic, let me just double check that that's absolutely correct. Well, that's actually not what holistic means. Holistic is treating the whole of something. Holistic is more medicine. So holistically, you would, let's say, holistic medicine is, oh, if your whole body is better, then this one problem you have will get better. If you go for a run, your heart might start to feel less pain because you are exercising your whole body. That's a general holistic approach to medicine. So in a sense, holistic medicine is a comprehensive view of the body, but there's quite a few differences. But yes, a comprehensive guide. Comprehensive growth would be growth in all areas. Comprehensive growth, even growth across all areas. If you had comprehensive growth in English, then you would have learned something in all different sectors of the language. You would have learned tenses, connectives, context, situations, all of that, writing, speaking, reading, all of it. That would be a comprehensive improvement to your English. Within our sector, within meaning inside of, sector meaning a section, a part of something larger. And that's that. That is all you need to know about this very long, very waffly, very wordy email between two struggling businessmen. Could you pronounce the word thorough one more time? In an English accent, I would say thorough, but an American might pronounce it thorough. Okay? I would say, I expect a thorough report on my desk tomorrow, and an American might say, I expect a thorough report on my desk tomorrow. Okay? Both sentences the same, but with slightly different pronunciations. It's okay if you can't roll your tongue. Learning to speak in English, you don't necessarily need to. Okay? Now, for the fun part. Let's translate this into informal English. So instead of a business sorting out productivity problems, let's instead turn this into a text to a friend. In fact, let's add a little page break. There we are. Let's turn this into a text to a friend. So instead of Dear Mr. Businessman, you would instead start with Hey. In fact, I'm going to change the music real quick. Hold on. Just to something else classical. Hey. There are lots of ways to introduce yourself or to say hello in English informally, right? Lots and lots of ways indeed. You could say hello. You could say yo. You could say what's up. You could say what's happening. You could say a word common in multicultural London English. You could say wagwan. Wagwan G, what's happening? How you doing, mate? How you doing, blood? Right? All of these make sense informally. Howdy. That's very American. You could say howdy if you wanted. What does that mean? I'll give you a little lesson. So there's a lot of crossover between in London there is a dialect, or rather sociolect, called multicultural London English. And typically in working class minority families in London, a lot of slang has come over from Jamaica in particular, to the point where it's very much a part of that English vernacular as well, that English lexicon, that English trying to find a simple word, that those English words, that way of speaking English. So wagwan is just a way of saying, it's a very shortened way of saying what's going on. I believe so anyway. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Wagwan, right? And quite a few people in London do say that to friends and family and people that they know well. Now, if you're a visitor, probably not the best word to use with someone you don't know, but I don't believe it's terribly offensive. Are we allowed to use that? I'd say probably don't unless you're among friends. It's not, I don't believe it's the kind of word that people feel sort of protective around. I don't think it's that much of an issue, especially given the fact that it's a, perfectly friendly greeting. But it's best usually to keep it simple and to just say, hey, hello, or hi. Or something that works in both contexts, good morning / afternoon. What's the corporate lingo for fuck off? This meeting could have been an email. There are all kinds of ways that you can imply that. Good morning or afternoon, depending on the time of the day, is very appropriate for formal and informal. I actually have given talks before. And when I was teaching in a school a couple of decades ago, I gave assemblies, or when the class when the whole school gathers in one room, you usually start with "Good morning, everyone." Good morning, and then the whole school says "Good morning" back to you in a very droning voice. So good morning is very normal, very appropriate, and is nothing to worry about. Hey, hello, hi, good morning or afternoon, whatever you want to say, or you could just shorten it to morning or afternoon. Chell, thank you so much for the super. Found your name. Oh, that's great. Wow, they had me in a textbook. Wow, what an incredible life. Well, thank you. Of course, I miss you too. I'm glad you've been having a good time. What a nice discovery that must have been. We regret to inform you there. That's a good one. Okay. Good morning or afternoon. Or you could just say morning. You could say afternoon. So instead of saying, I'm writing to apologize for my lateness as of the last few weeks, you could instead very simply come in and say, sorry for being late recently. Sorry for being late recently. And that's it. That's it. You've done it. Sorry for being late recently. Instead of saying, I'm writing to apologize, sorry for being late recently. Those responsible for the scheduling mishaps have been informed and will strive to improve. I need to get better. I need to get better at being on time. This whole sentence means the same as this. However, as a result, I have been made aware that Mr. Businessman II has postponed next week's meeting. I think my boss is mad at me. He cancelled our meeting. He cancelled our meeting today. As I'm sure you're aware, this could prove disastrous for our profit margins this fiscal year. I really can't afford to get fired right now. Could say, you could maybe add a little more context. You could maybe make it a bit more natural. He cancelled our meeting today. To be honest, I really can't afford to get fired right now. I propose that in response, we integrate a new strategy to facilitate better punctuality throughout our company. I was thinking, would you be alright to help me out with my timing? Or maybe I wanted to ask if you'd be I want to ask if you would be alright to help me out with my timing? By establishing a series of checkpoints throughout an employee's day, in addition to their usual morning clock-in, we will ask all employees to disclose their attendance and current task as and when they are asked. How about I give you all my savings, and if I don't text you what I'm working on, during the day, you can spend it all. In exchange, we may permit employees to seek higher bonuses. Those that utilize the system well will improve our reputation as well as illustrate comprehensive growth within our sector. I know it's a stupid idea, but I need a kick in the pants if I'm going to keep my job. What do you think? And there you go. We've taken, let's just say, let's just take, hey, sorry for being late recently. There you go. You've done it there. It's all done. So we've taken this massive, massive thing and shortened it down into, hey, I'm sorry for being late recently. I need to get better at being on time. I think my boss is mad at me. He's cancelled our meeting today. To be honest, I really can't afford to get fired right now. So I wanted to ask if you'd be alright to help me out with my timing. How about I'm going to give you all my savings, and if I don't text you what I'm working on during the day, you can spend it all. I know it's a stupid idea, but I need a kick in the pants if I'm going to keep my job. What do you think? And there you go. Even this is a little bit longer than it needs to be. Even this has a little bit extra in there to keep it flowing smoothly. It could become even shorter. We could try really shortening it, right? Shortening it. How about this? Till there, bro, I think I'm cooked. Please send help. We can shorten this more. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Hey. Oh, let's just cut out the hey. Sorry for being late. I can't afford to get fired. So I need so I would love some help getting better at being on time. I love some help being on time. If I gave you my life savings, would you make sure I'm doing my job and spend it all if I mess up? There you go. Still, that means the same thing. Yeah, you could shorten it even more. If I'm not if I don't show you that if I'm not on time, you can spend my life savings. How about that? And there you go. This is all you need. This is very brief. But this is what people might expect if you're trying to write formally. So that's why it's important to learn a few different words to utilize. Okay? Now, what I'd like to do, now that we've done this, okay, I've made another little scene that I think would be fun. So, because I've loved having a bit of back and forth chat about different words and things, so why don't we check this out, okay? What I've got here, welcome to my brand new system. I am Vox the translator. This is deep Vox, Vox GPT. I want you to give me, if you can, any informal word, and I'll translate it for you into a formal word. Okay? Or vice versa. Any formal word you might know, I'll tell you its informal meaning. Anything you like. As long as saying it won't get me banned, I suppose. Does this include slang? Yes. Yes, it does. So we can do this for a little while. And if you have anything that you desperately really want to know, just, let me know and we can figure it out together. Gestamaxing. Okay. Let's see if I can type without crashing my my PC. Hold on. Okay. So informal, we have gestamaxing. So obviously, a jester comes from medieval England and Europe and the surrounding area and so on, and was someone who existed to entertain the royalty. If you're gestamaxing, this of course, maxing comes from the Luxiem community, trying to maximize your potential with your looks. So we can infer, even though I've never really heard this term before, that gestamaxing means doing everything you can to make people laugh. So if I put that through, if I try to translate it, beep, 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 analyzing that word, the formal term for gestamaxing would probably be, that's the question, is there a single word for it? Because normally what I would say is that you're, being a clown, clowning, and so on. Word for... Let me see if I can find a word for this. Not really. Clowning, tomfoolery, not very formal. You know what it is? Gestamaxing. Really, if you're gestamaxing, you're practicing stand-up. Stand-up comedy being really what jesters do is just standing up and making people laugh. So if you're gestamaxing, you're probably trying to improve your comedy, and therefore, you're basically just practicing your stand-up material. At least that's how I see it. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but in no formal setting could you ever say you were gestamaxing, and I can't really think of a formal situation to describe that unless you were literally a comedian. Why don't we have another one? Tomfoolery is a great word. It's important to remember that not every long word is formal. A lot of long words are very informal. fart informal? Okay, okay. What is fart? So informally, you might say, oh, I farted. But the formal version of the word fart is beep, 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 beep. Pass gas. Or as some posh people say to get a bit of a laugh, pass gas. This is used in very formal situations, particularly at formal dinners. Someone might even say, thank you for coming. If you need to pass gas, the bathrooms are down the hall. But also, someone brought up the word flatulence. That would mean if you're someone who farts a lot, or just the general act of, if you're a person who farts a lot, you are flatulent. Okay? Let's go for another one. I'm enjoying this. Gluteus maximus. Gaseous maximus. Spill the beans. That's a good one. So, an informal term. Spill the beans. That's a piece of slang. Spill the beans. Very similar to spill the tea, as many of you might say. So, what is spill the tea formally? Tell the truth. With more of a context around gossip, if you're spilling the beans, that means you're sharing a juicy story, but really you're sat there telling the truth. If you spill the beans, it means, okay, I'm telling the truth, or sharing information. I wouldn't say spilling the beans is sharing information in general, because it's usually about gossip or admitting or confessing to something, right? Expose the facts. Whistleblowing. Now that is a great word. That's a great word. I'll tell you what it is. Now, whistleblowing, it's kind of like spilling the beans. But it has kind of a more specific meaning. So, whistleblowing is a formal term for ratting on somebody, or perhaps grassing, which is a British term, or snitching. A whistleblower is someone who snitches. If there is a if there's and whistleblowing is a formal term because it's used in legal contexts. If you blow the whistle, if you are a whistleblower, it means that maybe you work for a company that is involved in something controversial or wrong. Like Enron, for example, financial crime. If you suddenly become aware, oh, wait a minute, my boss is what's the term? Embezzling. If my boss is avoiding taxes or something. If you told the government, then you would be a whistleblower on their investigation. Testify? Kind of. But yes. Kind of. Testify is another good word. But that usually, it can mean in any way saying, oh, I say that this is the truth and this is what I'm saying. So that is a version of whistleblowing, but it's more anonymous. Usually whistleblowers are in a lot of danger because the criminals they're blowing the whistle on want to get revenge. What was that question? Testify. Intermittent. Oh, that's a difficult word to describe. I'll try, though. Intermittent is a word that means, in as simple terms as I can imagine, On and off. Intermittent means it's something that is there, but it's not always there. For example, if you and someone else were in a relationship, but you kept breaking up and getting back together, you could say your relationship is intermittent. It intermittently comes in and out of your life. If your TV is old and broken and it keeps getting static and keeps pausing, you could say, oh, my connection, my signal is intermittent. And toxic, yes, correct. It would be. But sometimes life has those plans, you know? Unstable. Well, the definition of unstable is kind of in the word. I guess, yes, unstable in a way, but intermittent is more on or off. It's not that it's wobbly or is kind of halfway. It's either 100% or 0. Beep, but on, off. You understand what I'm saying? What suffix or prefix does intermittent have? Well, inter means... You know what? I'm not sure actually for intermittent. Let me check that. Intermittent. Let me see the etymology of that word. Intermittent rain showers. If it keeps raining, if it rains a bit for part of the day, but not always, then there is intermittent rain. Intermittent etymology. It's a very interesting question. It actually originates from Latin. So in Latin, inter, I-N-T-E-R, means between, and mitter means to send. So it's being sent in between, right? It's in between moments. In between absence. So it's appearing in between other things. If it's intermittent, you would say, oh, intermittently, in between all these other things, this one thing keeps coming back. Joe, thank you for the super. Well, you know, it's okay if it's a little intermittent. If you need time to yourself, but you come back later on for a little company, that is intermittent, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm here for you. You don't always have to be there for me. That is I'm thinking about being a teacher at the moment, and it's like what Yoda said in The Last Jedi. They are what we grow beyond, and that is the true burden of all masters. I am what you grow beyond. Someday, you may outgrow me, but that is the greatest honor because I will have given you a great chance at a happy life speaking lots of English. Permission to sleep in my class? All right then, you're welcome to sleep in my class. All right. Anyone else have something to suggest? Any other words you want to ask about? If there's really what we want is notwithstanding. Ooh, that's a good word. That is a great word. I might have to quickly check the definition to make sure I'm describing it in a helpful way. Notwithstanding. It's an excellent, very long sort of legalese term. I just need to double check. Yes. So there are lots of ways, lots of things that this means. But notwithstanding means a few different things. Despite or although. So notwithstanding would mean I have signed contracts in my life that say notwithstanding, right? Or notwithstanding this, notwithstanding that. If something bad happens, but you want to keep going with whatever it is the bad thing happened to, you could continue, but notwithstanding the thing that happened before. So, let's say, for example, if I had a house, but then a hurricane came in and knocked my house down, I would want to rebuild my house notwithstanding what happened to the previous house. I would have suffered and I would be struggling to get back on my feet because of the hurricane, but I would rebuild my house, notwithstanding the disaster that befell it. You could also say, despite what happened with the hurricane, I will rebuild my house. Although my house was knocked down, I will rebuild it. You understand? And so in a legal contract, it might say, you are obligated to perform these actions, notwithstanding any personal scruples or problems that may arise. Notwithstanding how busy life gets, my love for my Lord remains constant. That's what I like to hear. In spite of. That's a good idea. All right. In spite of, which can be formal. In spite of despite and in spite of mean similar things. To spite something means to go against it, and usually as an act of revenge. So let's say something bad has happened to you. Maybe we're doing a stream and my internet goes down, and then 1,000 people tune out, or whatever it is, and that makes me depressed. Whatever. I would continue streaming in spite of the crash, right? In order to spite the crash, I'm spiting the issue by continuing to work hard even still. Okay? So you spite it. You have spite for this thing that happened, and in your spite, you are doing something. In spite of this, I will do this. Right? Instead, well, kind of, but in spite of, not really, actually. Let me describe instead. Instead is a very common word that means one thing instead of another thing. So what I might say is, I want ice cream instead of chocolate. I wouldn't say ice cream in spite of chocolate, like, oh, in spite of chocolate being an option, I choose ice cream, okay? That does technically make sense, but it's very emotional and wouldn't really make sense in most contexts. The most straightforward, easiest, and formal term is instead. Yes, in its stead. Instead of this thing, I will have this thing. Instead of going to bed, I will stay awake. In the stead of where the option of going to bed was before, now I choose to stay up and go play video games instead. Right? Rather than. Yes, so instead would come at the end of a sentence. For example, I will have ice cream instead. I'll have ice cream instead. Or you could potentially say, if you want something else more, you could say, I would rather have ice cream. Right? So rather tends to mean you're sort of saying, rather is more like you're saying, how do I describe this? Rather is more of this. So if I said, I'm angry, rather I'm furious. It's almost like you're saying that you prefer something. I would rather have ice cream than something else. Or, yeah, I will have ice cream instead is more of a straightforward statement. Instead of this, I will have ice cream. Not emotional, factual. I would rather have ice cream. That's your opinion. You're not necessarily saying you will have the ice cream because maybe there's none left. But you want to make people aware, hey, I would much rather have ice cream. Okay? Gravitate towards. Yes, that's nice and flowery. I gravitate. Well, that's more of a tendency. I gravitate towards vegetables rather than fruit. I gravitate towards, nonchalant. That's a good word to describe. So, nonchalant is an adjective that describes somebody. And these days it's informal, but you could use it formally in some contexts. But what does it mean? Nonchalant means to be really uncaring or relaxed. It's not uncaring in a cruel way, but rather it means to say that you will be fine, you will be happy regardless. No matter what happens, you'll be okay. Indifferent. Very good word. Very, very good. Indifferent. So, to be nonchalant means to be relaxed, like I've said here, and no matter what happens, you will remain calm. You value your tranquility. That's a great word. That's long. What am I trying to say? Sorry. To be nonchalant basically means that no matter what happens, you will stay calm. You have a cool head in the face of stress and danger. If you're nonchalant, you tend not to care too much when good or bad things happen. For example, if someone's nonchalant, even if they have a load of attention from those of their preferred sex, for example, they wouldn't act any different. They might seem that they don't even care about it at all. To be nonchalant is to just be yourself, no matter what happens or changes around you. Teresia, thank you very much for the gifted. Well, ignorant is a little different. Nonchalant, I think, has more to do with how you conduct yourself, how you behave. To behave nonchalantly means to stay the same regardless of change. But to be ignorant means you are not aware of change. I'll talk about what that means. So to be ignorant means to be ignoring something, whether you want to or not. If I came to you and I told you a fact, if I said 2 + 2 is 4, and then you said, well, I think 2 + 2 is 5, you would be ignorant of the truth. Usually ignorant has quite a negative connotation, and we use ignorant to describe people who aren't socially or politically aware. If you were cruel to someone of a different identity, you would be ignorant to their struggle and ignorant to their humanity, right? Unaware is good. Unaware. Willful unawareness. These days, you could be ignorant without knowing, but a lot of the time, willful ignorance is its own thing. Ignorant versus oblivious versus naive. Oh, those are some great words. Let's talk about those. So let's start with oblivious. Fantastic word. Any fans of the Elder Scrolls in here? Oblivious. What does oblivious mean? It means that I don't know. If you're oblivious to something, you are ignorant, but you don't know it. Oblivious means that the whole world could be ending and you would have no idea. Oblivious means a lot of the time we talk about obliviousness or someone who is oblivious when someone has a crush on them, but they can't tell. If someone's in love with you, but they won't tell you, and you can't tell on your own, you're oblivious to their feelings, right? Now, naive is very different. Naive has a sort of negative, but more in a sad way, sort of context. And I'll explain why. What does naive mean? Naive means to really to believe in something when you shouldn't. So let's say, for example, the best example of someone who is naive, or an example of naivete, which, yes, it's a great word, naivete. To be naive is to ignore obvious signs that something is wrong and to believe anyway. Let's say you have an ex and they hurt you bad, right? Let's say this ex cheated on you, did something horrible, whatever. But then a few years pass, and even though they're still acting in the same way, they ask if you want to get back together. If you said yes, you would be naive. You are naive to the fact that they haven't changed and will treat you that way as well. Gullible is similar. Gullible just means easily tricked. Gullible just means, hey, it says gullible on the ceiling, and you go, huh? Right? But naive, it's almost like you want to keep choosing positivity when you really shouldn't. That negative, that things are bad, but you wish they weren't. And you're almost ignoring all of those red flags. That's mostly what naive means. To be naive would be to think, I can go and pet this tiger. He's cute. He won't eat me. That tiger, if they're hungry, will probably eat you, and you would be naive to believe that they aren't. Trusting a stranger is naive. Yes, in a lot of contexts it is, yeah. Wishful thinking. Yeah, blindly positive. Someone who's naive trusts a liar. They are oblivious and don't know the liar is lying. Well, I think that the difference between naive and oblivious, someone who is naive would go to pet the tiger knowing that the tiger is dangerous, but believing that the tiger wouldn't hurt them. Someone who is oblivious would have no idea that a tiger can kill someone at all. Right? An oblivious person would see a tiger as literally just a big cat with no potential to harm them at all. Somehow. It's hard to believe because they're massive with big claws and they charge at you and they roar and all of that. But somehow, if someone were oblivious to that, that would be the difference. And if they were ignorance and naivete are similar in some ways, but mostly, I think if you're ignorant, a lot of the time you might be well aware that the tiger could kill you, but you just sort of, it's kind of very similar, really. It's very similar to naivete, but ignorance tends to be more negative. Ignorance is more to do with, it's a long word, right? Are you ready? Conscientiousness. I'll break that one down. Conscientiousness. Massive word. But conscientiousness, or to be conscientious, means to think about things in a broader way and to be aware of lots of different things. Usually we talk about this when we're talking about activism. Let's say in nature, if you're being conscientious, that would mean you're conscious of your impact on the planet. If you are conscientious, then you would be thinking, I need to recycle so that I can reduce my impact. If you're being conscientious, you would think, I mustn't put my cigarette out by throwing it in the public trash bin because it might start a fire. To be conscientious means I'm going to choose to take the train today because I want to reduce my carbon emissions, and so on and so forth. You are thinking actively about how you can do your best. It's not always what it means, but most of the time people describe it that way. So, to be ignorant is to be the opposite of conscientious. To be ignorant is a lot of the time choosing to act ignorant even if you do know. For example, if I were ignorant of the planet, I might say, well, yes, sure, I know there's a problem, but it's not going to make a difference if I don't recycle and then I throw my cardboard out as general waste. That would be ignorant for me. I know this is a long word, but I wanted to give you guys a bit of a lesson in it. Quality of being careful, responsible, and thorough. That's right. That's a better definition of it. Trying to describe things based on what I understand doesn't always come out so clear, but when in doubt, Googling it does help. Google definitions, Merriam-Webster, they have a lot of really good definitions of things. To be thoughtful, and we talked about thorough earlier, right? Throughout, thoroughness. Okay. What's the difference between situation, case, and circumstance? Okay. Well, situation and case can be similar. Usually a case is something that a situation and a case can both be ongoing. They're very similar, but a circumstance is different. So I'll describe this. Okay. Situation versus circumstance. So, a situation is something that's going on. If an elephant came into your town and started knocking things over, you might say, there's a situation with an elephant. What are we going to do about the elephant situation? The elephant situation is very dangerous. This is a bad situation. We need to sort out that elephant. Whereas, circumstance is something that comes from a situation. A circumstance is something you have to deal with. So, the circumstance of the elephant situation would be if the elephant knocked over your house, then the circumstance would be that you don't have a house anymore. Your circumstances are that you are now homeless. So because of the elephant situation, your circumstances personally have changed. So circumstances really are pieces of context that are important about, that change the way you live your life. They change the way a situation transpires. There would be circumstances to a situation. A circumstance of the situation for the elephant, for example, would be that the elephant had a circumstance where maybe their own situation happened. Let's say the elephant's baby was in danger. Maybe someone trapped and tried to sell the elephant's baby on the illegal pet trade, for example. That is a circumstance. The elephant is without their child and they are upset. That is a circumstance that leads to the stampede situation, and then your house gets knocked over, and then then your circumstances are that you are homeless. Under no circumstances will I stop supporting my Lord. Very good. That's why people say, under no circumstance. Under no circumstance can we afford to do this. It means no matter what happens, we cannot do this. Under no circumstances will I ever do this. So, for example, what would we say there? Circumstance. Gosh, my mind's gone blank. Under no circumstances will I forget what to say during my stream. Under no circumstances are you allowed to spend that money. Under no circumstances can we afford it. Let me try and get an official definition to make it just a little bit clearer for you. Yes. A specific fact, event, or condition connected to and influencing an event, situation, or person. It is something that influences a situation. The elephant lost their child, which is a circumstance that influenced them to cause a stampede. Okay? That was a really good question. Thank you to the person who asked. Thank you very much. Oh, well, it's been a good lesson today, guys. I think we've learned quite a lot. So I think I'm going to call it that. But to avoid overloading you, and I'm aware that for a lot of you it's getting quite late, but I want to say a quick thank you. I've noticed that in chat we have some people making Chinese translations. I'm really grateful for that. There are obviously a lot of Chinese kindred, and all of you are more than welcome to learn here. These lessons, while I put the titles in Japanese, anyone from any part of the world is more than welcome to learn with me today. And for those of you providing some translations, you're doing a big service to people who might be struggling with the basics of English. So I'm very grateful to you for that. And I'm grateful to all of you for coming along and joining the lesson and for giving me lots to work with. It's great fun. It's really great fun to teach you all so much, and I hope that I can get better at this as time goes on. Don't worry, no homework. But how about, if you'd like, before our lesson next week, what you can try to do is to learn a brand new long word. Something in English that is very difficult to pronounce. See if you can just focus on one that you like. There are lots and lots of very difficult long words, but if you give it a few hours of slow reading and trying to understand it, I'm sure that you can add something fantastic to your repertoire. Repertoire meaning your set of skills or assets. For example, one of my favorite long words is anti-disestablishmentarianism, which is a record holder for one of the longest words in the English language. Anti-disestablishmentarianism means the core belief set for someone who disagrees with the idea that the church should be separated from the state. So yeah, that's quite a long word, but I learned that a while ago, and it's always a good one to bring up. Thank you to Miri Lively for the super. I'm glad that you've been addicted to learning. I love you too. And trust me. You're more than perfect to me. English learner, thank you for the super, and thank you for yours. Well done. Omedetou. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I'm very proud of you. Taroshi, thank you very much for the super. Otsu. Thank you very much. Hakuma, thank you. English is still difficult, but your English is beautiful. I love this time when I can study while laughing. Me too. Glad that I can give you something interesting to do and something fun to get to learn with me on. Angelia Akuma, thank you for the Baku, super, my love. I was exhausted after finishing my last final assignment. Well done. Well done. Your voice sounds so soothing. It's very comforting. Aini, darling. Thank you very much for the super. And congratulations on finishing your final assignment. I'm very proud of you. And I hope that you can finally get a bit of time to relax. So proud of you. Well done. Michiko, thank you. Sensei, arigatou gozaimasu. Otsukare-sama deshita. Thank you very much, Michiko. And otsu otsukare to yourself. Very well learned, okay? Tender Dream, thank you for the 5 gifted. My sweet thing, thank you so much. Yukak, thank you so much for the super. Keep studying until I can understand everything you say. Good luck. My English is very complex. I struggle to speak in simple words sometimes. So if you want to keep up with me, it may take some time, but I believe in you, okay? Good luck. May Lively, thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you so much. And Cindy, thank you for the super as well. Learned a lot of new things in vocab. Your explanation was very clear. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. I'm going to try my best to keep making it clearer and clearer. Pei-chan, thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you very, very much. Evita, thank you very much for the gifted. And Wallflower, thank you for the super as well. Reminiscent. It's like one with the times you show affection and comfort. Reminiscent is that you're always looking back. You're reminiscing about the past. Reminiscent and nostalgic might be somewhat similar, but they refer to different feelings. Another thing I want to say is that I'm very proud of all of you in chat who are doing your best to interact with the lesson. Obviously, if you're a lurker, it's okay to just sit back and listen. But to those of you who are still learning English, who are making an effort to show up in chat and to try and use your English, I'm very proud of you. There is no chance that you could cause offense by just trying to use your English here. I know that it can be very scary sometimes to try and use a language you're not familiar with, but right here, this is a safe space where no matter what, even if you get something wrong, we will either happily correct you or we'll understand what you mean and move on regardless. It's okay to not always get everything right, because I know that you're all learning, and I have to be insanely grateful to all of you for supporting me, even though for the longest time, statistically, most of you can't even speak my language. It's a beautiful thing, and I owe you a lot, so thank you. Thank you, Galako. Sensei, arigatou gozaimasu. Daijoubu desu. Omedetou. Otsukare-sama desu. Zulia, thank you very much for the super. Basorexia, an intense, overwhelming, and sudden craving desire to kiss someone. I think I'm feeling it too. Angelia, thank you. Otsu, darling. Thank you. And Wisteria, thank you for the super. Glad you think I'm good at teaching. I think I could do a little better, but I'm learning bit by bit how to get better at this. It's great fun. On Bilibili, about a month or so ago, I did a stream where we broke down a speech from Shakespeare, and that was great fun because I learned a lot as well. I hadn't read Hamlet in a very long time, but really breaking it down and understanding the context of something in language as complicated as Shakespeare's was very fun. So we might do that with some other public domain work. Maybe another sort of reading session would be good. And I'd like to go back to Bilibili and do another stream like that as well. But of course, tomorrow you've got a lot to look forward to, because tomorrow is going to be the return of one of my favorite types of streams. It's going to be a full-blown roleplay ASMR where you, the listener, are on a dying submarine and you have to listen to my voice as I try to help you stay calm and stay alive. It's going to be very dramatic. It's going to be very interesting. So I hope you all enjoy it. I just had the idea last week and I thought, fuck it, I want to do more of these, more opportunities to do improv and acting. So I really hope that it's something you all have a lot of fun with. I'm still wondering what to do about the microphone, because if I'm speaking to you via radio, I can't really do much binaural stuff. Maybe there's a trick to it. Maybe there's a trick to it. I'll figure it out. Chen, thank you for the super. Full score on your English midterm. Well done. I'm glad that my lessons helped. That's really nice to know. Really nice to know that I could have helped. I love you too. Misa, thank you. I really enjoyed learning, and if you can, teach me pronunciation with ASMR. That is a really good idea. Pronunciation. Okay. I like it, actually. I think that's a really good idea for what we do next week. So, yeah, that's a brilliant idea, Misa. Thank you. Pronunciation with ASMR. Wow, that is very clever. Never would have thought of that. Okay. Thank you very much for giving me such a good idea. But everybody rest up. I've got lots of work to do tonight. So let's be busy, let's be productive, and let's do our best, always. Check out the lesson archives. Good. And again, something I always want to say, particularly because whenever I announce these streams, I choose to use DeepL to translate into Japanese, and it's amazing to notice the attention from the fans of NIJIJP and how loving and supportive they are of EN. I've talked about this before, but it is always deeply reassuring that people who support such a monolithic side of entertainment would also see it so important that EN is supported and encouraged. I love my place in EN. I love all of my friends and my family who work in EN and who have done such amazing stuff. And to know that you all are supportive of us, even though you may not understand what we say, is extremely reassuring and is very, very comforting. So thank you very much. Arigato. Tokito. Onomatopoeia. I'd love to explain this word. Onomatopoeia. Let's spell it, shall we? O-N-O-M-A-T-O-P-O-E-I-A. Onomatopoeia. This is another one of the famous big words. Onomatopoeia is any word that sounds like what it's describing. So, for example, bang! That's an onomatopoeia for an explosion. Or quack is an onomatopoeia for the noise that a duck makes. Bang! That's an onomatopoeia for the noise that a sheep makes. Or, I think, and you could even extend that to some other things. For example, I think that the word brush is an onomatopoeia. You brush your hair, right? You brush your hair, brush, 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 brush. To me, that sounds like an onomatopoeia. Yeah, rar or. Does Kindred have an onomatopoeia? That would be cute if they did. Onomatopoeia. That's cute. Mogu mogu. See, different cultures have different onomatopoeias. In English, we might say munch, 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 or om nom nom, but in Japanese, you would say mogu mogu mogu. In English, we say kiss kiss, or moi moi. In Japanese, you might say choo choo. In Chinese, you might say chin chin. There are all kinds of different onomatopoeias to learn, and it's a great word and very fun to spell. Whenever you remember to spell the OE near the end, it's good fun. It's good fun. Different animals as well. In English, it's bark bark, but in Asia, it's wan wan, In England, it's meow meow, but in Japan, it's nya nya. Choo choo. Wan wan nyan nyan. Nyan nya. Yes. What a great formal English lesson this has been. All right. You're distracting me with your pretty face, so I have to go. But thank you all for spending so much time with me today. I had a wonderful time, and I will see you all tomorrow for a classic, well done, story ASMR that I hope you will all love very much. Good night now. Let me just go ahead and put the song on the ending screen. Okay. Bye-bye now, guys. Who shall we raid? We should raid somebody, if anyone's alive. Let's take a look. Maria and Ver alive. Okay, let's raid Maridin. She's been going to everybody's birthdays. Angelia, thank you for this super. Mwah. I'll see you all soon. Enjoy Maridin's stream. Bye-bye now.